Hello, beautiful people. Long time no connect. I hope you're all doing well at some level, right? Because even if we're going through hardships, at least for us to know that, underneath that there is a level of, wellness or peace or love. Um, yeah, even while on the surface, things may look and feel terrible. Um, because I've definitely been in that situation, and so I can um, appreciate that, which I know many of you are going through. So, sending you all lots of love, and happy to connect after all this time. Yeah, I've been going through a lot on my side, and some censorship that I've been facing has complicated things for me. So, but happy to connect again, and really looking to connect more with you all, and yeah, just send out messages that I feel will help you all. So let's get to it. All right, so the first topic that I wanted to talk about today was knowledge. All right, and the second topic was perspective. Okay, and so with regards to knowledge, it's important to keep in mind that our society values knowledge tremendously. Okay, so we look at people with letters behind their names, or the fanciest schools, like myself. I went to Harvard, as many of you know, or have read the most books. We look at these people with like this sense of, oh wow, okay, so they must be smart, right? And that's based off of a value system that places knowledge at a very high level. Okay, so when we are all about, or not all about, but when we really value um, yeah, just learning about different things, reading different books, watching different documentaries, um, studies, academics, textbooks, A's, good grades in school. Okay, so this is all from a knowledge value approach. Okay, um, in contrast to that, okay, perspective is, as you know, our point of view, right? It's how we view the world, it's how we view ourselves, it's how we view the cosmos. And when we look at our perspective as having a tremendous value in our approach to life, then things shift. Okay, so then it's not necessarily the person with the most letters behind their name, or the fanciest degrees, or who's read the most books, that is the one, or the type of people that give us the most insight, right? Rather, with perspective being of a high value place, we look at the way we look at the world. Are we looking at things um, from a narrow perspective, right? Just like here, or are we looking at things from like a bird's eye view with a much larger perspective, right? So there's a great documentary that I would definitely recommend you all check out. It's called Earthrise, and it was put out by the Global Oneness Project. Gosh, I want to say like roughish, 8-ish years ago. And it was about how when the first astronauts to set foot on the moon, when they were traveling to the moon and they got a chance to see our beautiful, beloved planet from afar, their values changed about what was important about life here on Earth. Like, they didn't see borders, right? Because when you look at the Earth as a whole, there are no borders, right? They didn't see, distinctions between, gender, race, color, religion, right? They didn't see this divide between developed world and developing world. They didn't see those who got the versus those who did not get the, right? They didn't see degrees, letters. They just saw one collective whole. Okay, I definitely recommend you check out the documentary. And so that's all about changing perspective. Okay, so when we value perspective, we value insights that come from looking at things holistically, more objectively, and more in tune with the reality of life as a whole. Okay, and this type of approach, or this type of this perspective, which, the deeper the perspective, in my view, the deeper the wisdom, can come from an old illiterate woman who, sits in her house knitting, as much as it can also come from someone who's read many, many books and has, lots of degrees, money, status, right? So the point is that it's not about those things, right? It's about whether or not one has those, but it's about the vision that one has about life, right? The reason I use the example of the old lady knitting is because, traditionally, people wouldn't value the wisdom from, like a wise grandmother, from, someone who's really has a deep approach to life, even though they may be living, simply with, not a large community of influence, but simply just from their own life experiences. And this distinction is something that has been highlighted, I know, in the writings of, great mystics who talk about this, and how I know that Rumi, he's got a story where there's two guys, they go out on a boat, okay? And one's a famous academic, right? And at the time, the specific type of academic discipline that he was using was Arabic grammar, right? Because Rumi was, so he was Persian speaking, and at the time, the Arab world was, and the Arab language was like, it was like English today, where it's like the international language, if you will, okay? And so those who had great knowledge of Arabic at the time were considered people of high status, right? So he uses the example of this Arabic grammarian who goes out on a boat with just an ordinary Joe, right? And then the boat gets a hole in it, okay? And as they're going on the boat, so the Arabic grammarian is testing the knowledge of just the ordinary Joe, and he's like, do you have knowledge of nahv? Okay, so that's a specific type of Arabic grammar. So it's like, do you have, knowledge of, using prepositions in a metaphorical context, or, just something related to nuanced grammar? And then the ordinary Joe was like, no, But then the hole got larger and larger. And then the Arabic grammarian, when he heard the ordinary Joe's response, he laughed at him and scoffed. Then you don't know about the most important things. So he was mocking him, right? But as the hole in the boat grew larger and larger, um, then the boat was sinking. And then the ordinary Joe turned to the Arabic grammarian and said, "Do you know how to float on water and not be weighted by yourself?" And then the Arabic grammarian was like, "No." And so then the ordinary Joe was like, "Well, haha, then you're screwed because you're going to die." And so, the ordinary Joe was able to stay afloat on the water because he wasn't burdened by the weight of his ego. Whereas the Arabic grammarian was so burdened by his, attachment to his knowledge and status and power in society that he was going to be sinking into the ocean and die. So the moral of that story was, it's not about, what knowledge or status that we have. It's about, how much, we can efface, the ego and live in harmony with the cosmos. So, yeah. So that's just a great example from Rumi about the importance of having a deep perspective, and not putting too much weight in knowledge, right? Because it's so easy to get caught up in knowledge, right? I mean, we see these experts on TV, just giving their perspectives on things, and we read their titles, and we say, oh, okay, so this person must know what they're talking about. But then when we look at it like a practical application in society, we see it doesn't resonate with our intuition or our own life experiences, and we say, well, gosh, that was stupid. Or, we might do what the expert says, but then not feel comfortable about it, right? Somewhere deep down, we know that this isn't the right thing for us to do. And it could be a plethora of things, just a number of different things. So whether it's related to our health, our values, the people that we choose to hang out with, the shows that we choose to watch, the books we choose to read, where we choose to spend our time and energy. And so this is something I feel is just really important. It's lacking in our society. And so I wanted to share it with you all. So sending you all lots of love. And it's great to have finally connected with you after a long while. And I'll be in touch with you all soon. All right, talk to you later.